All right. Hey guys, we're gonna go ahead and peer review this task 4 and get it out the way so Catherine can go lay down and go to sleep, bless her little heart. That is called dedication. All right, who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
That way, if I pass out in the middle, it's okay. I'll do Danielle's first.
Okay.
So for your synthesis of course readings, I gave you a 4. I said your reference I did a good job supporting all the statements you made. You did a great job justifying each step that you did, and I really enjoyed reading it. Because I really like you'd say something and then you'd justify it with a statement, then you'd say something else and you'd support it again. I really liked that. For rubric requirements, I put a 3, but it might be a 4. I did the same thing for Chris's. I wasn't sure. It said for prompt number 1 on the rubric of task 4 to do an electronic narrated presentation. I didn't know if they needed us to have that in the task or if we just kind of said that we did it. I wasn't sure. So that's why if you don't need to, then you got a 4. If you did need to, it was a 3. That's why. And I said the same thing for you, Chris. I didn't know, since it said on the rubric to do the presentation, I didn't know if we had to have it in like an appendix, we had to show it or anything, or if that was just that. We just said we did it. Quality, I gave you a 4. I said from what I can tell your paper meets the requirements as outlined in the rubric. There's a few things I might add for clarity's sake, but I put them down the additional comments.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not necessarily a requirement. It was just like more like just my thoughts. But I'll go over those when I get to the additional comments. Mechanics and grammar, I gave you a 3. Your title page says annotated bibliography of best practices. So instead of I didn't know if you like copy pasted and you just forgot to change the title. Then
I kind of did, yeah.
Yeah, because I did the same thing. I figured out, okay, I can center the page, so now I'm just going to copy paste everything, the title page, and just change it a little bit. But I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you.
For first sentence, second paragraph, you said in, and it might want to be 2, but that's the word choice. First paragraph, page 3, you begin to refer to yourself as I instead of the candidate. And you said we instead of the PLC, so just pronoun usage. Table 1 on the 3rd page, the title needs to be pushed to the left margin. And make sure your tables all fit on one page. I remember reading somewhere that it said if it can't fit on one page, you'd start it all on the next page, because table 1 starts on page 3 but ends on page 4. And then for your references, I gave you a 4. I said the references cited within the artifact are correctly used in APA format. So yay! Additional comments, I said your topic's always been very interesting to me. I'm excited when I get to read your work. I always loved the whole demographic differences. Remember just the few things that I just kind of was thinking myself, but it's not like a requirement. In the first paragraph, last sentence on the first page, you already said what 2 ethnicities you had, so you kind of said it, comparing these 2, and then you did like a semicolon, and then you said it again. So it just was like, if you already said it like a sentence earlier, then maybe leave that part out. I said, could you detail how the action plan is different from what the school is currently doing? I was just kind of curious what changed. And then maybe just a few more details on how often you progress. When you said like progress monitor, but I didn't know if it was like every 10 days or every 2 weeks, or and then like you talked about walkthroughs. I was just wondering, did you figure out how often you do the walkthroughs? If it'd be like once a month, or who would do them? And then I was curious if you had like any sort of backup plan if your action plan fell through or something happened, you had to put it on hold. What would you do as like a backup plan? But that's just personal little things I was curious about. It wasn't anything required. But I really did like your paper. I enjoyed reading it, and I loved your graphic organizer.
Oh, thank you.
I'm a very visual person, so I was like, I get it when I saw that part.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Yeah. Well, that's what I like about the action plan, is that I like it. I want it to be simple. You know, as a classroom teacher myself, you know, I know we do what's best for the needs of the students, but to be honest, it's 4th quarter, and I don't want to have to I wanted something that is easy implemented, that is not like, oh Lord, here's something else that we have to do. I figured if it would be, you know, very simple, then we would have more of a teacher buy-in, you know. to help scaffold. But yeah, I agree. I have spring break coming up, so I plan on cleaning a lot of stuff up and getting it done. So I'm just, just praising that we have spring break next week. One more day.
I hear you. I've already had like 10 people call out tomorrow from work.
Oh gosh.
The receptionist already sent an email saying, please nobody else call out. We're all out of cells.
No.
So
No.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I'm pushing through myself. So
yeah.
I really like your paper. I really do.
All right, thank you.
And actually, I had the same problem with my action plan. Was you said how you didn't want, it's fourth quarter and you didn't want to start something. I did the same thing with mine. My principal loved it, and then she's like, "But let's wait till the start of next year to start it, because it's like we just don't want to start anything new." Period.
Right. And see, my principal, she was like, "Well, let's do it after spring break. Let's just implement, what we have, and we can do this and rework this, and it's not taking teachers, too far out of their routine of what they're already doing. It's just adding another cushion, for them. So yeah,
I liked it a lot. I really.
Thank you.
Chris, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So yours, I gave you a 4 for synthesis of course readings. I said because of the nature of the paper, the references wasn't really needed, but you did do 1 reference and you did it correctly. Yay. Then I said for rubric requirements, I said the same thing as Danielle's. Everything else seemed perfect. It all matched the rubric. I just wasn't sure because it says address the most pressing need in the form of an electronic narrated presentation. So I didn't know if you had to, again, I didn't know if that needed to be embedded or if you needed to put it in the appendix or if you just referencing it saying I did it was enough. I wasn't really sure what they wanted with that. So if you didn't need it, then you got a 4. If you did need it, you got a 3. I wasn't sure. Quality, I gave you a 4. I really liked the checkpoints you described on page 6. I liked how you gave them ranges, so it made the teachers more accountable. They're like, oh, okay, I need to be somewhere in this range. It was actual numbers that they had to reach, so I really liked that. And I said it's great that you spelled out how assessments have to have a theme, and it's not just I'm going to give this so I can have a grade, because I know a lot of teachers who do that. So I really like that you recognized that and addressed it. Mechanics and grammar, I gave you a 3, but only because I found 1 imperfection. 1. The top of page 3, it says a plan, and it should have a semicolon, not the start of a new sentence. Organization, I gave you a 4. I said it's beautifully organized, correct headings and tables, and your flow was really well. I really liked how, when I read it, I didn't have to stop and reread it anymore. References, again, I gave you a 4. There's only 1 reference, but it was done well, and it was done in APA format. Additional comments, I really loved your action plan. It actually, I was like, I might steal some of his ideas for in the future. And then I just had a few questions. You talk about backwards planning on page 3 and page 5, and I know, Danielle, you talked about backwards planning, but I was just, yours, Danielle, I kind of got what you were saying, but Chris, I was just wondering if you could add a sentence just to know. I know what you're referring to, but I didn't know if a reader on the outside might know what backwards planning is. And then you say teachers will do brief assessments, but I was just wondering how long. Would it be a 1-minute timed assessment? Would it be a 5-minute assessment? Just so I can have an idea of how long it is. And you state, sorry, my toner started to run out, so it started to fade halfway through. Page 6, how if students are not making growth from differentiated core instruction, they're going to be referred to the PLC, and then the PLC will contact the central office. I was just wondering if you had a plan in place for if you contact central office and then it takes them 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to get back to you, what you would be doing in the meantime while you waited.
Did I say in there that they would contact central office?
Yeah, it said if students are not making growth from differentiated core instruction, they will be referred to the PLC, who will contact central office. It was on page 6.
Okay.
And that's what it said, but then I wasn't sure, well, what happened? Because I know central office will take, it could take a while.
Yeah, no, I need to change that because we don't contact central office.
I was curious, but I didn't say anything because I'm well, maybe they do something different over there than.
No, it's good you said that. I gotta change.
I missed that. I didn't see that at all.
Hold on.
I haven't been able to go to work a lot with my strep throat, so I've been sitting here staring at a computer screen for hours. Lots of Benadryl.
You getting sleepy?
Oh, I'm so tired. That's why I'm laying in bed in my pajamas. I was like, so once this Zoom is over, I'm like, phew, I'm already in the position. I'm good. But that was all. I really liked your paper. I really, really did. I enjoyed reading. I actually read it 2 or 3 times just because I could, and I really liked reading it.
Oh, share with central office. We have central office data meetings 3 times a year. Like they come to our school.
Oh.
Progress monitoring, and it's not a we're checking in on you. It's a just kind of let's have a conversation. It's very informal. They want it to 1 page. So I'll specify that more. It's not a, hey, we got kids we're worried about. I need central office for help. But that's not
okay.
Okay, I'll reword that a little bit. So.
Oh, that's cool that they do that, though. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, we got one more coming up on May 4th. This is our last one. So.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and go. I'll go ahead and start with you, Catherine. But the only thing is that I have not. It's right here. Can y'all see my screen? What I see?
No.
Or you just see me?
I just see your beautiful thing.
Okay. Well, right now I'm in the middle of typing yours up, but I have it here. Of course, for with synthesis, you get a 4. Everything is aligned according to the assignment is aligned to what we're supposed to do. For the rubric requirements, of course, you get a 4. You have successfully unpacked the rubric. All tasks have been detailed. Honey, you are very detail oriented in your typing. The rubric is detailed, and everything has been addressed in the narrative. I know exactly what happened in that meeting every time I read your paper. Like, you tell me word for word. Like when I do point 1 inferencing in school, I'm always like, tell me exactly what happened. I want to know word for word. And that's what you do. You give it word for word, everything that happened at the meeting. And I like that. Also, as far as quality, of course, that's a 4. Hold on 1 second. Son, I'm recording. Sorry. Quality, of course, that's a 4. Everything is very detailed. Like I said, I liked your video. I liked that you had the charts. That you had like several different charts, and each chart was detailed. Like the member said this, and this is what we're going to do. But my one question I have is, did you put an action plan like all together? Is it like one? Because I know Chris as well as myself, we have the action plan, and it's one like table. So for someone who doesn't have a lot of time, or for someone on the outside, they can say, oh, let me just look at your action plan. And instead of looking at, 1 or 3 different tables, it can be all on one table with who's doing the responsibilities, what the action is, the timetable of it and all that stuff.
I had that, but what I had a hard time with was they said that you can't put it, if it's more than 1 page, you have to fit it in the page. And the problem is, because my action plan detailed each grade level was doing something, but the time I detailed what each grade level was doing, it was going on to the 2nd page. And I was like, well, I can't make it smaller than a 9 font. So I'm kind of, I had it, and then I was like, how do I fit this on here? And then I couldn't figure out how to get it on there and it still meet those APA guidelines.
Right.
So
okay.
That was my problem with that. So that's why I ended up breaking it up into multiple parts instead of 1. Was just for the APA reasoning of it. Okay.
But other than that, you did a good job. Now, I know that you have, like, in your paper, there's a lot that's going to go into what the teachers have to do as far as the interventions or the action plan. Did you have teachers buy in? How was the buy-in for the teachers? I know the PLC bought into it, but how did the teachers who have to implement this buy into it?
It depended on the grade level, because about 4 of the grade levels were pretty much already doing it. They were already doing like a 5-minute number sense fluency anyway, and then they were doing an assessment at the end of the week. It was more just charting the data, getting the results, because they were like, oh, okay, here's the scores. Here, you can have your scores back. But they were never charting them to see if there was any growth or anything. So about 4 grade levels were already doing it, and I even said, well, give them to the PLC and we'll chart them for you. I mean, if it's a matter of time. So about 4 of the grade levels were all for it. They were like, okay, well, we're not really doing, I mean, it's just a little more intentional. But then the others were like, it's just one more thing we have to do. I don't want to do it.
Right.
Do it?
And one more question too. I know that your school doesn't have a lot of technology, but is there another way that you can get creative with your weekly assessments instead of it always being like, paper and pencil, and it's just like, oh Lord, we gotta take another test. Is there like what?
Because right now, like we have this weird. We used to be a school of technology. Last year, we were actually a magnet school, and we were a school of technology. And then this year, we've changed completely, and now we're a multicultural international school, and we teach different languages like Mandarin and all that. And what happened was all of our technology ended up going to a different building, like iPads, everything. So now we have like no desktops anywhere in the school. We have some iPads that are pretty much, they came out when iPads were first made, and then we have some iPads that are brand new, and we're having this issue where a lot of our programs will only run on like 10 iPads in the whole school, and then some smart boards were removed, others aren't. So it's kind of weird. My concern was I wanted to make sure that that we didn't have like one grade level doing all this amazing stuff and then another grade level not being able to do it because they didn't have access.
Right.
So
I just thought of an idea. If you have you ever heard of Kahoot?
Yes.
Hey, if you like, an idea could be like when you do your small groups in math. So instead of doing like maybe a minute or like, the fluency check, maybe you could do like a Kahoot game just to, put some down, freshen it up some, and like do that as a station during like guided math or small groups.
I like that.
Yeah.
As long as, I need to figure out what we're allowed to do. But I love the Kahoot because the kids like Kahoot too.
They love Kahoot. And it's really easy.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I think, but other than that, good job. And I'll type it up and get it to you or put it on Blackboard.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But good job overall. Like I say, you're always very, very detailed. So
I kill about half a forest. Every time I make a paper, I'm always scared I'm going to leave something out. So I was like, let me just make sure I put it all in there.
Let me tell you what, Catherine Blaylock leaves nothing behind, let me tell you.
They tell you write up a dissertation, 500 pages, like, that's fun, I got that.
All right. Okay, Chris, here we go. So I did type yours, and I just need to know where I put it. No, that's not it. Hold on, but it's here. I was prepared. I promise I was. Okay, let me go this way and do it. All right, there you go. All right, Mr. Chris. So, synthesis. Of course, your 4 content information is aligned with the assignment. Your action plan was purposeful and aligned with the goals of your PLC. Rubric requirements. 4. Let me just say what, Chris. I didn't see anything wrong with your paper. I absolutely loved it. So I'm just going to tell you it's 4s all the way down. And let me tell you, let me just give you the comments. Like I said, 4s all the way down. The rubric was have been unpacked. All requirements have been addressed. Your narrative is well written, clearly describes your plan of action. Quality. I always enjoy reading your work. I always appreciate the simplicity of your work. No fluff, straight to the point. I got a lot going on. I don't want to have all the extras. Tell me what it is. Let's get to it and let's go. I like that. Your action plan seems to be well thought out. No issues with mechanics or grammar. Your paper seems to be aligned with APA standards. References are cited properly and are aligned with the APA standards. And as for additional comments, overall, great job. I like the fact that you and your PLC focused on the why students are not mastering. And I don't have any critiques. Good job. Good job, Chris.
Thank you. All right, my turn. Who wants to go first?
It doesn't matter.
All right. Danielle, I'm going to do yours first. Hold on.
Okay.
I got another little computer right in front of me. So.
Oh, that's okay.
All right, Danielle, first part, synthesis. I gave you 4 candidate reference multiple articles to extract information and brought them up through a PLC to discuss, and the PLC will reconvene in a few weeks to discuss the action plan. Am I on the right one? No, I'm on task 3. Hold on. Make sure I didn't open that and send it to your discussion board. There we go. Okay. I did give you 4. Okay. The narrative was descriptive and let the reader in on the action plan as well as the administration's and PLC reaction to it. So you were very, you explained very thoroughly what your team thought of it, what your principals thought of it, and that you guys would start this after spring break. Next part, rubric requirements, has the entire artifact rubric been successfully unpacked? Yeah, I gave you 4. Both prompts were addressed the way that the syllabus asked them to be, and the artifacts were successfully unpacked. So as you can say, I'm a fan of simplicity. Yours was, it was simple, it was to the point, you explained it, and you moved on to the next part. Quality, hold on. I got 2 mouses here. Gave you a 3. The goal, the objective, action plan, action steps, person responsible, and success indicators are laid out in figure 2 part of the task. However, under the action steps and strategies, it just lists actions, for example, manipulatives or 10 marks. I was curious, what more data will you have or use to dictate what kind of manipulatives or lessons and 10 marks that you will use to help the students? So, you know, if you guys are going to do manipulatives, what's going to dictate the manipulatives that you do or how you do the manipulatives? And I just said I'd recommend being more specific as to how you would determine these, and that's the only critique I had of that. Mechanics and grammar, I gave you a 3. I said on page 3, first and second line, I would switch plan backwards to backwards planning. It's more of the vernacular or colloquialism that's used in education and teaching. I know that, you know, Catherine, you gave me some feedback on that. And then I said on that same page, same paragraph, line 3, change I and we due to the fact that you can't use first person pronouns in APA format. Change it to third person, the candidate, or something that makes the same sense. And then table 1 on page 3 should be pushed to the next page instead of being split between 2 pages. Then on page 5, the second line from the bottom, I just wasn't sure. Do you call PLTs? Is that what you call them at your school? Okay, then don't change it. I just wasn't sure if you meant PLC by accident and put PLT. And the rest seemed great. Organization gave you a 4. This area is very good and well organized. You know, the artifact structure is directed by ABA style guide. Yep, your reference page was fine. And references, give you a 4 on that too. Additional comments, I like the specific simplicity of the task. You addressed the prompts and got right down to business with the PLC administration. And I like how this will be put into play after spring break. It really showed a sense of urgency to prep for, you know, getting students where they need to be right before testing. And again, I love the 4-corner activity in math. It addresses higher order thinking as well as literacy into math. And I've actually seen 3 of my teachers using it when I was doing a walkthrough. So I shared it about 2-3 weeks ago when I read it. Or no, you showed it in your last task, and I shared it with some of our PLCs. And I've actually seen 3 of our teachers using it as I did walkthroughs. I love how you modeled the use of 10 marks to your colleagues. And instead of just saying, hey, we need to do this, you kind of showed that I know how to do this. I've done it with my class. This is how it works. So it's just a great way of modeling and being in the trenches with your teachers. And on page 6 and first paragraph, I like how you're giving them strategies they can do during the test and EOG time.
Yes, because you know you can't use it, but you can create your own.
Really,
you
can.
know, we fold that paper and make that paper in 4. So let's get it going. Right.
I hear you. We had a leadership team meeting on Tuesday, and I was bringing up, like, part of our intervention team that we're trying to do now is create a testing tone and language for the school, because part of what I seen last year being in classroom is that there's lots of good different stuff going on, and that's a good thing, but there's different stuff going on. That's a bad thing. So kids get kind of confused. So if we can come up with 4 or 5 core strategies that everybody use, it's good communication. Kids aren't feeling overwhelmed. So we talked about some things that, you know, like a student gets ELA, what's it called? EOG. What's the only thing they never use on an ELA EOG? It's the blank paper. So when they say begin, you know, just things you can do, like make a list of everybody you're doing this for, or, you know, do something that instead of getting hit by that Mack truck of you may begin testing, kind of get your toes wet and ease into the water a little bit.
And what I tell my students, I tell them, because I am the ELA teacher, it's called drain your brain. So you write down everything you know. Like and I
Yep.
try to teach them the standards too. So they know that RL 5.2 is theme. So if they see that, because on the test, they usually have it in the corner. So when you see that, I'm going to write down everything I know about theme. Theme means this. Theme means that. Write down everything you know.
Yep.
And I've seen, because you have to be responsible for your own learning. I can take you to the water. I can't make you drink it. But this way, I know that you have something. You have some concrete understanding of what you should do.
Yeah, and I really like how you guys are giving them stuff to help them on testing day, because that's one thing we talk about at our school is a lot of teachers say, well, why do we got to – it's just teaching the test. We're here to give them a rounded education. Taking tests is part of life. You've got to teach test-taking strategies, because you want to get a license, you got to take a test. You want to go to college, you got to take a test. An interview is a test. So there's nothing wrong with teaching them to the test, but, teaching curriculum as well. Last but not least, it was simple, it was effective, and it was precise task. Very, very nice work.
Thank you.
So I'm going to go ahead on to Heather.
Hey.
Make sure I'm on task 4. I am. Okay, Heather, I said for the first one, synthesis of course material, is the content supported course content or appropriate external sources? Maybe before in that, the candidate did a thorough job of explaining prompt 1 and 2 for task 4 in the portion of the APSL. And the candidate gave specific examples of why and how they will move forward with the action plan at her school. Next part, rubric requirements. I gave you a 4 again. The candidate explained why the PLC created and explained the steps needed to move forward. Again, whether you're teaching kids or teaching adults, you have to give the why to make it important as to why we should be doing this. And prompt 2 also states that the discussion had between the candidates, the PLC, and administration in the candidate school. So you were very thorough with talking about the dialogue that happened in that. Quality, gave you a 3. I said the critical thinking for these steps needed seems to be in place. The only area where more talk could be had was with the different style of assessments being talked about by grades 4 and 6 on the table on page on table 2 on page 6. And I'm going to be very honest, Heather. It's been about a week and a half since I've read yours. Let me look that up.
Oh, no, go ahead. It's fine. It's been a while since I wrote it.
What's that?
It's been a while since I wrote it. So
you are sick, girl.
There she is. Bless her heart.
Style assessments being. I think that was where grades. I didn't look it up. I'm just trying to remember from memory. Grades 4 and grade 6 said that they were already doing these things.
Yes.
Okay. If I'm remembering right, I was curious about what they were doing, and if it's not working, why continue doing it, and change it up a little bit or try something new to see if you do get different results. Moving on to the next part, mechanics and grammar. I gave you a 3, page 1, first paragraph, 7th line down, math specialists. Says should have quotes after it. I think you had it at the beginning of it, but not at the end of it. So it was like half of the quotes on it. Next line down, I said use a comma between successful and as. Page 7, 7th line down, spell out 4th and 6th is FOURTH and SIX, TH. Page 9, first paragraph under part B, administration should be, I thought, administrative. On the second line down, page 10, instead of saying admin a few times, could you switch it up? It said admin very repetitively, just maybe use a different word to put in there just to kind of spice it up a little bit. Administration, school, leadership, etc. were some examples I gave. Organization gave you a 4. I thought it was extremely well organized, sequential and thought out. And references, there were none needed for this. So that was just non-applicable. And for additional comments, on page 1, I like how you treat your PLC with snacks. If you feed them, they will come. So nice job giving them snacks. It always keeps people happy at 2:30 or 3:30 whenever you guys get out. And at the end of the day, assuming that that's when you had your elementary setting, this is much needed. On page 3, first paragraph, I like how you sent a copy of the action plan to the entire staff. I feel that that's very, very good communication, and I am a huge proponent of anything that has poor communication will not succeed. That is the glue of any good movement or whatever it may be. At the bottom of page 3, have you all started implementing the quick, 1 to 2 assessments each Friday? Is this something new that you have done? I know somewhere in your plan it said the administration wanted you guys to start this next year. So I didn't know if this is something that you were kind of getting your feet wet with now, or.
It's something, because I'm like leading up the PLC, third grade, which is what I teach, already has started it. But the administration said, don't make it, we're not going to really push to have it till next year.
Okay.
I told her, I was like, I want to go ahead and do it. And like I said, a couple other grades are already doing it. They're just not charting it, and it's not as purposeful or intentional. So we're just kind of, right now, it's her first year as a principal. And like I said, it's a new program. So she's like, too much new stuff all at once.
Okay.
So I'm going ahead and doing it. And then at the end of the year, I'm going to tell her how it went. So that way, we'll have like a little trial and error session for now.
Okay. And I like how you used Google folders. It was very well organized. You had a little snapshot of it in your Absol task. And it's a simple way to enhance communication by all. And then I said I would double check with your clinical coach for putting a video or MP4. I know you've critiqued me on that a few times, Heather. And that's something my clinical coach had said, don't put a video, don't embed it into your video, put it in your competency folio and reference it in your task. Because as Dr. Bone was saying, he was saying pictures eat up a lot of video graphs. Imagine what an MP4 does. I mean, what my clinical coach was saying is when they try to open that from their end to look at it, it may not even get uploaded, or it'll take an hour on their end to upload a video. So he was saying things like, if you have an MP4, upload it to YouTube and just put the link in your competency folio because it doesn't eat up that much memory. But again, double check with your clinical coach. I don't want to, say something mine said, and if yours not saying it, just double check with that. And what access, I was curious, do you have to Spanish interpreting at your school? Because if you're going to be doing these new things, let's say next year, I know you're dual lingual, correct?
Yeah.
It's like 1 day Spanish, 1 day English. I mean, do you speak Spanish? Like, is there?
No, yo hablo español muy poco. Lo siento.
Okay.
No, I don't speak much.
My wife speaks Spanish. I should know it, but I don't.
I don't speak that much. I think that's a problem that we've been having school-wide with everything is they're saying, oh, like we get like writing foundations, and like here's the Spanish kit, here's the English kit. But when you look at it and unpack it, then they don't line up.
Okay.
So that's a problem we're having with like everything is that our immersion teachers, the Spanish side, we're trying to be collaborative and be consistent, but it's really hard for us to do it because we don't line up. So it's going to be a challenge, but right now it's like, well, it's a challenge, but everything else we also do is already a challenge. So it's not really adding another challenge. It's just throwing it in there with everything else.
So do you guys, what percentage of your staff speaks Spanish? Because I know for, dual, because we have 2 schools in our district that are Spanish immersion, dual lingual, and it's kindergarten and first grade or just I can't remember. We have one school we're piloting and a second school. The one my wife works at is starting next year. And it's, 1 day English, next day Spanish, 1 day English, next day Spanish. And we have interpreters for our district because we have such an high EL population. Do you guys have lots of interpreters? Do you have?
No, we have 2 interpreters for the county, but it's for the whole county, like every school in the county for 2. But then half, literally.
Wait a minute, 2 per school?
No, like 2 in the whole county. But then our school, we have 50% of our staff speak Spanish.
Oh, okay.
So it's one of those things where if they can find the time between their teaching, hey, can you translate this for me? Is kind of what's happening.
Because I've taught elementary. I taught elementary for 5 years, and I taught middle school for 5 years. I remember, like, elementary, I sent a newsletter home every week to my families. Had to get it interpreted every week. Like, is that one of, like, can you send it to somebody, or is it if they can get it done thing?
It's if they can get it done.
Okay.
A lot of pictures sort of thing where, like, we'll do, like, we try to figure out ways to do, like, calendars, just images and stuff, so that way it's a little easier. And that way if we do give it to them and say, can you interpret this for me, then it's not like a whole page of text. It's visuals. And just because.
Right, we got 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes.
All right. Sorry.
No worries. Because I want to do this. Do y'all have time to do one more little session? Because I got some questions about task 5 and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm done. I just had that was my curiosity. I'm just being nosy. I was just curious how interpreting was.
They say if you want to send anything out, get it to them by the last day of the month, and they'll get it to you by halfway through the next month. So,
oh gosh.
God help you if it's something emergency, last minute notice sort of thing. It's not
Yeah.
going to happen. You just have to, if you have any questions, please call the school, and we'll try to get somebody who speaks Spanish on the phone to interpret it for you if you don't understand. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Oh, wow.
a couple, like 2 weeks in advance we have to give it if we want to get it interpreted.
Okay. I was just curious. All right. All right.
Okay,
But overall,
well,
great paper, Heather.
Thank you.
Feel
yes,
better.
good job. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and end this now. Great conversation, and I'll go ahead and send you another link right now.
Okay.
All right, so I hit stop recording. All right.
Bye.
It's not rocket science.